All right, so Dirk Dongus said more beginner portraits. Just started drawing and painting in January. Would love any critiques or advice. I mainly want to focus on portrait paintings. Subjects are below. I feel like I'm just beginning to understand how to convey some likeness of the subjects, and I would like to try more expressive faces next time. So here is one photo that they have. They have another one over here. All right, and I'm seeing, so he uses oil paints, and I already see some things that you're doing very good, and also some things that I would like to recommend for you to do. So I'm gonna focus mainly on the Kratos one that you did right here. So when I zoom in over here, I see that first of all, you did really good on the colors. So I actually want to like applaud you on that, because a lot of people have struggles with colors. Like I really have struggles with colors when I was starting out, but I had to practice a lot for me to actually get good at color matching or color theory. I know that is like super tough, and it can get demotivating when you're not able to get the exact color that you're looking for, but that's the reason why I even have videos showing you guys how to do this. So I like broke down everything. I broke down all the colors that you need, and really it's just about experimenting. You can't really have like a guide that shows every single color, because it's gonna be like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long. I mean, if you guys want to watch that long, then like that's fine, just let me know. I'll literally make a video showing you how to make every single color that you want, and you just like skip to the part that you want. But yeah, you did pretty good on the colors, because I see the skin tones are really good, and you also got like the red stripe on him, on his face as well. So that was good. Also, another thing that you did well is actually with your texturing. Your texturing was actually pretty solid. I wonder what type of brush you used. It looks like you kind of used like a it looks like you kind of used a flat brush, because a lot of the areas that I'm seeing are sort of square. Like, let me show you the type of brush that I think that you were using in this one. So there's like different shape brushes, and you see that one right here that I have is like, it's like a square shape of a brush, you see. And then another type of style of brush would be like a round one like this. So the shape of the brush has a impact on how your lines will come out and how square or how like round it is. So I like to use like different brushes depending on if I'm creating like something boxy, or if I'm trying to create like a smooth line with a transition. I'd always use my curved brush to create like nice smooth transition for skin. But if I'm painting like, I don't know, clothes or like a hat, I would use this square brush, and I'll make the lines off of that. So that is what you did pretty good. Okay, so now what I think that you should do is, first of all, focus on the proportions, because right now it's looking like you didn't really use an underpainting and you just went in straight away. Maybe you used a little bit of pencil, but that is something that I wouldn't really recommend using pencil. I think that you should start off directly with your paint, so you just like layer on top of that. But another thing too, when you're creating the underpainting, I made a picture of Kratos for this video just to show you guys exactly the whole process, so you can see like what my process will give to you. So come on, you guys gotta hit the subscribe button for that. Come on, I already put the effort into this video. I literally made the photo, and I already have it right here. It's on my wall. I just posted it on my wall. But let me actually take it down so you can see. Yeah, right here. This is the photo that I made right here, and I'm gonna be showing you like all the steps that I went over in the video. Is gonna be on over the screen, but this one right here. Okay, first step I'll say is start with your underpainting. Okay, and with your underpainting, I would say to use burnt sienna, because that's a color that is very easy to go over, and it's the one that I always use. And you just mix it with a little bit of the paint thinner, and it's going to create like a liquidy consistency, and that's what you're going to use for creating your underpainting. And your underpainting doesn't need to be like a whole masterpiece. It doesn't have to be like a whole like creation. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to map out the correct proportions, because without it, it's easy to fall off of the rails. So this is going to keep you in that like square area that you want to stay in. All right, it's like a coloring book. You're just creating those lines, and you want to trace in between those lines. And with the underpainting, you can always mess up and just clean it up afterwards. So start with your underpainting, all right? And then after you do your underpainting, I want you to lay down all of your darks, because right now I'm seeing that your shadows aren't very deep and it's sort of flat overall in the photo that I'm seeing. So like when I'm looking over here, it's kind of hard to tell that the nose is like in front and is like deep set. I know that that's what you're trying to do. You did pretty solid with the like brow ridge, if that's what it's called, like making that part like go deeper in, because I know that he has like a pretty pronounced brow ridge. So you created some sort of shadows underneath that, but I feel like you can pronounce that way more than you did right here, and it would just make the picture that much better. So a good way how I create these shadows whenever I'm creating portraits is to start off with some burnt umber, and then afterwards, like when I'm getting closer to the end, then I add my blacks. I see that you put in some of the black here, so it's not really a smooth transition between your shadows and where you created your skin. So using burnt umber is an easy way for you to do that, because it's not going to be as dark as black is, and it's not going to be as like powerful of a transition, because when you use black and then you try to mix it and blend it with other colors, it's going to create like a gray. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that, but it creates like a gray color and it's not really looking that nice. But you get rid of that when you use burnt umber, because it's a way more natural color and it blends with skin so much better. It doesn't matter if you have black skin, white skin, Asian skin, whatever, everything under the sun. Burnt umber is going to be the one that transitions the best. So use your burnt umber. And also when you're creating your underpainting, I forgot to say this earlier, but you want to trace out the places that the shadows are as well, because that's going to make your proportions way better. Because I look at where the shadows are and I trace those areas out. Like if imagine I have like a photo of like my face right here. I have some shadows on like one side of my face where the light is, and there's light on the other side where the shadows aren't. So I'd also trace out those places where there is shadows, like I don't know, like my nose. I can't really see myself right now, but around my nose or like anywhere that's dark, I just like map that out. All right, and then I create the proportions off of that. So for example, in the photo I made right here, he had some shadows around his cheek, so I traced all of that out. And I also traced out the shadow that was over top of his eye right here. So you want to focus on all of those shadows, and it will help you out so much, because I've tried it out and it works just so well. It makes it so much easier. So I definitely say that you should try that out too. And I think that this is a perfect transition for me to promote that 7-step guide on how to paint portraits perfectly every single time. It's in the description. Definitely click that link right there. It's also going to make you join my emailing list, where you're going to get some more advice on painting portraits specifically, and if you just want to get better at painting overall. So I think that is like definitely worth the value, and you should definitely check it out. So yeah, after you have all of those shadows down, the next thing that I would say for you to do is create your dark tones. So what I made for my dark tones is I took a little bit of magenta and I also mixed it with some white and that burnt umber. So when I mixed all of those together, I got like a dark pink color, because Cradle's skin is like a sort of like pinkish, whitish, palish thing. And when I mix all those colors together, you get like a pretty accurate color match for the skin. So that's what I use, and I use those to border all of those places that I put the burnt umber earlier in the photo. So it's like a smooth transition between the shadows and where the lights will be on his skin. So I just created a trace of all of those areas, and I blended it in as I did that. Okay, so you might be wondering, how am I gonna blend this in from the burnt umber to this now pink color that I'm using? What you can do is first lay out all of the places that you want to put that dark pink color. All right, and then you clean off your brush, and then you just go like a smooth little wipe between the burnt umber and that pink, so it's like a nice smooth blend. And if you use a clean brush, it's gonna make it very easy. You just don't want to put too much pressure on the painting. Just like go very lightly, and it's going to create a nice fade, like an ombre between the two colors. So you do that. Even if you're not experienced, then I'll say definitely use a clean brush. The more that you do it, you'll be able to use like the brush with the paint on it. Like you'll know the amount of pressure to put on it. But it's all about keeping the brush very light and just wiping it very like smoothly so the colors will transition between each other very well. Okay, and now from there, I'm gonna move on to my lighter tones for the skin. So for the lighter tones, I just took a little bit of my burnt umber and I mixed it with some white, so that's gonna create like a pale skin tone. Normally, if you want to create like a warm skin tone, then you'd mix a little bit of like burnt sienna in that mix with the burnt umber and the white. But over here, I'm not really going for like a warm skin tone. It's like very cold, so I just went straight up with that burnt umber. Took a little bit of the white. And also another advice that I'd give to you all is to not use like huge chunks of paint every single time that you are mixing colors, because oil paint goes like a very long way. You don't really need that much to get like a very large area filled out. So always like experiment with small colors, and then if a color doesn't really come out the way that you want, you won't have like a huge bunch of paint that's wasted. So only use small amounts, and then you just adjust the color from there. So that's exactly what I do. And I also keep my colors that I mix on my palette. I don't immediately wipe them and throw them all away, because I know that I'm going to use them all in a later stage of the process. So it's very helpful to just have a pretty large palette space that you use all of your colors on. I already have my palette right here. Sorry, it's broken, so don't judge me off of that. It broke. I literally was creating a photo and like I was trying to fan the underpainting, and this part right here broke. It's so sad, because this was such a nice palette too. Like I really like this one. It makes me feel like a real artist. But I already have another palette anyway, so I'll just like use that one. But I'm just thugging it out with this one. So don't judge me off of that. I know that is crazy just seeing this, but yeah, use your whole palette space. Use small colors. So like over here I'd have my burnt umber, over here I'd have my burnt sienna, over here I'd have like my reds, or like any other color that I'm using. I'm just keeping them all on the palette, okay? Because I know that when I get to a later stage, if I already threw away that color that I used earlier, then I have to make it all over again, and then it would like waste a huge amount of paint again. So it's all about being conservative with your materials, right? Because oil paints are expensive, I know that, and you gotta find ways that you can really make the most of what you have. And I don't want you guys blowing like huge amounts of money on paints when you don't really have to. You don't need to do like anything extra. It's just about being smart, and the more that you paint, the more you're gonna figure out ways how you can really like manipulate your tools and like change things and like get the most out of what you have. So that is also another thing too. So yeah, now at this part of the painting process, I'm pretty much finished with the skin. Now it's just about adding some whites now for those highlights that really pop out. So like on this forehead right here, I see that you did pretty good with the forehead and the wrinkles, and getting all of those areas like really popping out and like that light reflection on it. So that's pretty good on your end right there. I just would say that I'd like it to be a little bit smoother, so like creating a nice blend between all of those colors that you laid down. Just go on over it with a clean brush. With a clean brush, and then you'll be pretty good, and everything will look like a lot smoother, because now it's looking kind of cartoonish the way how the lines are like very deep set, and it doesn't really have like a nice like translation to what you already laid down. So that's one thing right there. All right, and then now it's time for the stripe. So for the stripe, I just used some cadmium red, and then I mixed in some of my white that I used earlier from my palette for the light tone on the skin, because I don't want it to come out like a pink. I want it to come out like a sort of like a washed red, like a very light red, just so it can also match the skin tone of Kratos, because I don't want it to really stand out, look like it's not really a part of his skin. I want it to look like it's like painted on him, and it's like a nice smooth transition between everything. So that's the reason why I used that paint that I already had on the palette, so it doesn't really like make it that foreign, and it doesn't really make it like a really weird line that pops out. So I did that, and also to darken up my red for like areas that are on top of his head right here where the shadow is, and also underneath his eyelid. I took some of my burnt umber from earlier and I mixed it with that red to darken it. So that's the way how I got like different shades of red, and I applied all of those over top of his face and put it all in the area so that it has some depth and has like some sort of dimension to it. All right, so now pretty much done. We just need to work on the beard now. And the beard, like I said, you did pretty good on the textures of his face, so you did pretty good on that beard. Only highlight I would say for the beard is probably darken it up some more, because I see that in your background you use like a really dark black, and that's like a really good thing, but I want to see you use more of that on the beard as well, so the beard has like some more I don't know, like scraggliness, and sort of like it has more of a hair texture, because hair is dark and you want to really get those dark tones whenever you're painting hair, and also get like those like little bits of like white hairs, like those little strands that pop out. So if you can really get a dark black over top of like where the shadows are on his beard, then that would like really make it stand out and make it like 10 times better than you did right here. But that is exactly what I did right here. In this photo, I created like a really dark black that matches the background to really match those shadows that he had in his beard, because there's a shadow on the right side of his face that I really wanted to get down. I really wanted it to like stand out like as a deep dark shadow, so I used that same color, just straight black out of the tube, and I put it all around the beard. And also for those light areas of the beard, I just mixed together some gray like with some black and some white, and I put the light areas where the lighter areas are on his beard, and I put the darker areas where the dark areas are on his beard. And to top it off, I just took like my small little brush right here, and I just took some white, just created like little strands just to make those hairs really pop out. All right, and then now is the part of the painting that I start to go in with my dark colors, my darkest colors. So that's the time that I go in with the blacks, like where all the shadows are, and like his eyes, and like around his nose, his lips, all that. So that is exactly how I painted this photo. I think overall you did pretty good. There's just some areas that I definitely recommend that you work on, such as like your outline. You did pretty good on the color, so I think that's something that's really good. You did pretty good on your textures as well. I just think that if you got your proportions right and also like darkened up some more areas, it would really give that face that structure and that depth that you're really looking for, because you're almost there. You just gotta like lean over the line, just add these things and you'll be golden. I'm telling you right now. All right, so that is my critique of this photo right here. So I created it right here as well. You guys will watch the whole video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really appreciate you all for watching this, and I also want to recommend that you guys go check out that 7-step guide in the description on how to paint portraits every single time, because over there you're not only going to find access to that 7-step guide on how to paint portraits perfectly, you're also going to get access to me. So I'm gonna be launching coaching, and this is how you're gonna get early access to it. So any sort of questions that you have, if you want me to critique your art, or if you want like some help or advice during the process, then I'll be there for you, because I'm putting all of the knowledge that I've learned. I've gone to like certain classes like art school. I've gotten years of experience, and even just like me experimenting different stuff, that is the way how I got to the place that I am right now. And don't listen to the people that tell you, oh, art is just talent, art like you can't really practice it, because I think that is false, because I am living proof of that. If you look back at my old photos, it doesn't look anything like what I'm doing right now, and that's all a result of me just practicing different things, learning along the way, and just experimenting and just falling in love with the process. So I want to break this down as easily as I can for you all, and this is something I really find enjoyment in, and I want all of you guys to find enjoyment in what you do as well. And I think that art is a beautiful thing for us all. It brings us all together, helps us like advance as humans. So I would recommend that you all check that out. All right, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.